Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Facebook Live today. What a busy audience we have here. Full house. So great to see you all joining us today. I see viewers from around the world. Of course, it's a great attraction. We have a great session lined up for you today. So it's really fantastic to see you all joining us. Thank you to everyone who is tuning in, no matter what time of day it is for you, wherever you are located. And if you haven't told us yet, please leave a comment in the comment section and let us know where you're joining from today. We'd love to hear about it. Just like Sue here from Ohio. We have, let's see, the comments are moving so quickly, I can't even read them. Linda from Seattle. We have Leah from France. Whitney from Connecticut. So thank you all for joining us today. It's lovely to see your comments and to hear about our viewers from all over the world. Thank you so much. So just to let you know about a few things that we have going on at MyHeritage before we move on to the main attraction today. We have a Mother's Day DNA sale going on at MyHeritage. So if you haven't yet picked up a present for the mothers in your life, whether it be your mother, sister, aunt, daughter, granddaughter, MyHeritage DNA Kit is really the perfect present and the gift that keeps on giving, because it's the gift of discovery for your whole family. So if you haven't picked one up yet, we'll be putting a link in the comment section to the Mother's Day sale that we have going on for MyHeritage DNA. So make sure to check that out if you still have some moms on your list to purchase a Mother's Day gift for. In addition, we have a Mother's Day competition going on here at MyHeritage, and we'll put a link in the comment section to that as well. We want to see photos of the mothers in your family for a chance to win. So a great competition that we have going on leading up to Mother's Day, which is on Sunday. So make sure to check those both out. And now I'd like to introduce our star of the show for today, our speaker. We have with us Dick Eastman, and he is one of the most recognized names in the genealogy world. He's been involved in genealogy for over 30 years after coming from the computer industry. He worked in hardware, software, and also held managerial positions. As a pioneer geneablogger, he uses technology to improve your family history experience. And it's always a pleasure to have him on our show, on our Facebook Lives. It's not the first time, and hopefully not the last. So let me bring him on here to say hello. Hello, Dick. How are you?
Hello there. Good morning. Good afternoon. Good evening. Wherever I guess for you it's evening, but for other people, wherever you are, a good middle of the night or whatever, it's a pleasure to be here. And I thank you for the invitation.
We love having you here on our show, and I know we always learn so much, and it's so thorough and informative. So we're very, very excited about today's show, where you'll be talking about smart matching on MyHeritage.
Yeah, I hope so. That's what I rehearse. So that better be the subject today. Yes.
Okay, fantastic. Before we get to your presentation, I just want to let everyone know that we'll be talking about smart matches today. So anyone who leaves a comment and lets us know about a discovery that they've made using a MyHeritage Smart Match will be entered in today's draw that we'll give out at the end of today's session. So just leave a comment. Have you learned anything from a MyHeritage Smart Match throughout your research on MyHeritage? And if you have we'll choose one lucky winner at the end of today's session, and they will win a MyHeritage Complete Plan. So for anyone who's new to MyHeritage, a MyHeritage Complete Plan is the best plan that we have to offer on MyHeritage, with unlimited access to 13 billion historical records, confirming and rejecting smart matches, which you'll talk about today, as well as unlimited access to all of our photo tools. So definitely the best plan we have to offer, and we'll have one lucky winner from today's show after the questions. So leave us those comments as well as questions for Dick that we will be answering at the end of today's show, and we hope to answer as many as possible. So I'll bring up your slides and I'll let you get to it.
Okay, well, thank you very much. I am going to push a few magic buttons, and I think you're going to have to help out also, Esther. I'm hoping that that is it. I'm not sure if you're seeing.
Perfect.
Okay,
Yeah, we see it great.
and Esther, you might want to check my name wherever you changed it before. It's gone back to the wrong spelling. And to everybody else, to tell you how well prepared I was for this afternoon's presentation, when I went to log on, I put a typo error in my own name. So if you see my name with the wrong spelling in it, well, blame me for that one, okay? But anyway, we're going to be talking about smart matches, and I'm going to tell you in my discussion, informal discussion with other MyHeritage users here and there that I meet, or I meet online, or I meet at conferences or whatever. We haven't had a conference in 14 months, have we? But whenever. I find that actually MyHeritage has so many different options that it tends to confuse some people. That's both good news and bad news. The good news is they have lots of options to choose from. The bad news is it's a little bit confusing because there's so many options to choose from. Today we're going to talk about smart matches, and only about smart matches. I'm going to try to ignore all the other features on MyHeritage, and we're just going to talk about smart matching, which is, in my mind, one of the simpler features of MyHeritage, and also probably one of the more powerful, and probably the one that I use second most. I use mostly looking for records and so on. I'm always looking at new things that have been added to MyHeritage. That's my most popular use. But second most is I go look at smart matches, and I'll explain that in a minute. And you'll also find about 5 minutes into this that I am way behind on my smart matches, but I'll save that for the time. But basically, smart matching is when the computers help you search for people that you have already defined in your family tree as people that you're interested in. I'm going to assume it is one of your relatives or your ancestors or a great aunt or whomever. But it doesn't have to be. It's you could be working on a population of a particular town through history or something. Whatever, there are people in your database that you're interested in finding matches to other people who are in the database on MyHeritage. Now, keep in mind, there's a million. I think it's more than it's several million people are in the databases on MyHeritage, and Esther probably hasn't memorized how many. I don't remember, but I know it's a very large number. It's many millions, and this is a way for you to find matches in there, which I think is really good. Now, the purpose to find those existing records that are on MyHeritage is to display information about individuals in order to quickly and easily verify, hopefully, or to reject. But if you verify that the person is of your interest and you do not yet have them in your database, you can very quickly add them to your database. And that's optional. You can do it. You can add the entire record. You can add bits and pieces of it, whatever you wish. You're always in charge of whatever information goes to your database. So we'll take an example. If you already have John Smith, and I'm going to pick that name deliberately. If you have a John Smith in your database, this is going to find all the other people of John Smith and a few other things that I'm going to talk about in a moment. They're going to try to find the right John Smith. Well, John Smith, of course, is going to be a very big challenge. That may or may not work. But for a less common name, I'm going to say William Rabinowitz or something like that. There aren't as many of them, and it'll work very, very well for that. And in fact, I am very blessed. My own last name, by the way, is a fairly common name, and there's been a lot of them lived over the years. My mother's maiden name, however, is Dubé. It's a French-Canadian name. And luckily for me, 3 or 4 or 5 generations ago, the family started spelling it the wrong way. Actually, Dubé is a fairly common French name, but when it's spelled the way my closest ancestors and closest relatives spell it, it's almost always one of interest to me. It's one of my blood relatives. So it's very good for me. Most people are in between those two extremes somewhere. But you'll find that MyHeritage is better than most of its competitors in finding this. Speaking of competitors, I'm going to take a slight side. I had a note to talk about this at the beginning, and I skipped right over it. I should point out that I am not an employee of MyHeritage. I am instead a very gung-ho user, and I also write a genealogy newsletter. I'll give you the plug for that later. But MyHeritage very kindly sponsors my newsletter. So I get to not only use MyHeritage like anybody else, I also get to talk to people like Esther and the other people at MyHeritage quite often. And occasionally I even have a few days notice before something new comes online. I just love that part of it. So I'm a gung-ho user, and I'll say I'm affiliated with them. I will not say I'm employed by them. I'm more of a contract relationship, if you will. But it's been fun, and I have found a lot of new relatives that way. I will also say I've been doing genealogy since I was about, I think, 2 years old or whatever. It seems that long. And I did it before the World Wide Web was even invented. So I went out the old-fashioned way, and I looked at records, and I looked at microfilms, and I flew to Salt Lake City and looked at stuff there. So all the easy to find ancestors, I had found most of them before the World Wide Web was even invented. However, progress went along, and I added a few more after the web was invented. And then when I started looking at MyHeritage, and particularly when I started looking at smart matches, I found a whole bunch of new relatives. In most cases, they weren't my ancestors, but I found great-great-great aunts, great-great-great uncles, second cousins, and things of that. And my genealogy database has been expanded ever since then. So I'm very, very happy with that part of it. So what are smart matches? And unlike many of the competitors' websites, smart matches on MyHeritage work by comparing names, facts, connections intelligently to all these others. Let's back up just a little bit, and let me dive a little bit deeper. I'm not going to mention the competitors by name, but you know them and I know them. Most of them already have something similar. They'll go out and find matches for you. If they've already got it in their database and you're looking for the John Smith or the Rabinowitz or whomever, they will try to find it for you. And the different competitors all work a little bit differently from each other. Some of them are pretty good, some of them are not. But what happens is quite often, particularly with the common names, you'll find that they'll present to you lists of people in their database. And as you investigate them, you find out that they're not really your relatives. And in fact, not even exactly what you wanted. So let's say you're looking for a great-great-grandmother who lived in Ohio. Now, so I'll use Ohio as an example. She lived there in the 1850s, 1860s. So you're looking to see if you can find any more information on her. There's two things I find to be great disadvantages. On most of the competitors, you have to type them in, that one person at a time, into your as you sit in front of your computer, and then you wait for it to come back and find all the other people of that same name. And depending how good it is, how good the information is, it will probably find them. And in fact, one of the problems I've seen with some of the competitors, they find too many of them. And if you're lucky, they will have that great-great-grandmother. It won't say the great-great-grandmother, but they'll have a person of that name who lived in Ohio in the 1850s. That's if you're lucky. Many times I find that you're not so lucky. They might find that one you want, and they'll display it in a list of 5 or 10 or 50 different people of the same name. Some of them who lived in California in the 1940s, some others who lived in Virginia in the 1720s, and things of that sort. They're really not good at filtering it down. Now let's go back and talk about what's different on MyHeritage by looking at the slide that you have on the screen right now. MyHeritage not only looks for names, and some of the competitors look for places. MyHeritage does that, of course. But it looks also for all sorts of other facts and connections in an intelligent manner. What it goes looking for, if you're looking for a John Smith, okay, we know he's going to have a lot of those. But with MyHeritage, it will look for that person's immediate family. It'll look for his locations and things of that sort. So if your John Smith had a wife who was married Cynthia, who was named Cynthia, married name was Smith, of course, but maybe her maiden name was Williams, Cynthia Williams, MyHeritage will look not only for John Smith, it will look for who had a spouse named Cynthia Williams. And if you've got names in your database, you're searching for other relatives. Maybe you've got the children's names of John Smith, and maybe you've got his siblings' names. MyHeritage is one of the few services that will go look for those facts as well. MyHeritage is trying to narrow it down to the correct John Smith. And it does a pretty good job on that. I'm probably using John Smith as a poor example, but let's say you've got, if I'm me searching, it might be looking for somebody now, last name of Eastman, and it might be looking for, I do have a great-grandmother named Cynthia Eastman. So I'd be looking to see all the Eastmans who have a wife named Cynthia and who have children named Orman, which is another one of my ancestors, and another called Marie, and so on. And then it will try to identify the most likely person that you have searched for. When it puts them into lists, it will generally, well, I'll take that back. It will always put them in order at the top of the list. When they used to do this, it was just strictly a list that was displayed. It would put the most likely person at the head of the list. And this, what the computer thinks is the second most likely at the second one on that list. Nowadays, they tend to not display text lists. So the MyHeritage work actually gives you graphics and shows you the entire family. And dates and places, locations, things of that sort. That's really good because you still get to see the most likely candidate to be the person you're searching for at the head of that. I don't know if I said that right or not. It makes sense to me, but I'm not sure it did to anybody else. Ask questions at the end and we'll try to clarify that. But the bottom line is always look to see if you've got 2 hits or 5 or 10 or whatever that possible, I'm going to call them candidates, were displayed by the computer. Go look at the order. Look at the first one first. Now, that's a computer decision. A computer is not always going to be correct in comparing them, but I find a high percentage of the time it is. If it isn't the first one on that list, then go look at the second one, and so on. It's very rare that I ever end up looking at the third or the fourth one. Usually MyHeritage gives it hits it right on the first or second occurrence. And I had another thought escape me right now. I'll jump back to it later. Now, the other thing is, unlike most of the competitors, you do not have to sit in front of the computer and type these names in one at a time and wait for them to come back to you right there. You'll see various references today that it's looking for names that are in your database. The way this works, the way most customers of MyHeritage operate, is they upload their family tree. And depending how long you've been doing it, maybe you've got 40 or 50 names. Maybe you got 5,000 names or whatever. What happens is the computers will go off, maybe in the middle of the night while you're sleeping. And as a background job, they'll go looking for matches to the various people in your family tree. So when I say it's looking for somebody named Eastman, whose wife's name was Cynthia, and so on, all these other facts, connections, locations, that may happen. They may find the match at 3 o'clock in the morning. And that's not the time of day that you normally want to be sitting at your computer to find it. So obviously, MyHeritage batches it up and will display them on a screen later if you come on. And also they have a method of sending them by email, and we'll talk more about that in a few minutes. So again, it not only looks for names and locations, it looks for all your matching relatives. When it's looking for William Eastman, it's also going to be looking for the father of William Eastman and the mother and the spouses, parents, children, siblings, and others. For locations, it seems to have some pretty good intelligence because where a lot of my ancestors lived for several generations, the county lines seem to maneuver around a little bit. And I have found that in the past, it does a pretty good job of even finding them in a location of one name as it used to exist. And today it's a different name, but it's still the right person in the right physical location. So if you take anything else away from this, remember, we're not looking just for the names and the dates. MyHeritage also looks for all these other relatives, and I find that narrows it down very, very nicely. If it does find a match, and it says this is a match, let me take that back. If it says this is a probable match, the information is listed and displayed on a screen in front of you, in my experience, is usually an exact match. The few times that it isn't an exact match, the correct one is shown on the second or third one. Another thing that really fascinates me is spelling. Now, we all know that the spelling of various names varied quite a bit over the years. And 200, 300 years ago, a lot of our ancestors, you could not read and write. And somebody would say, what is your first name? Well, it's William. How do you spell that? And the answer would be, well, I don't know, because many of these people did not know how to spell their own names. So that makes searching for records very, very difficult. I suspect most of you have been through that. I'm preaching to the choir here. My smart matches on MyHeritage can handle differences in spelling and phonetics, and even in relationships, to offer a large quantity of very highly accurate matches. These differences are found through the use of dictionaries in MyHeritage. In other words, if you're looking for William, but in the old record, maybe it was spelled W-I-L-L-I-A-M. In another record, it was only spelled with one L. And still another record, it might have been spelled Willem, which I see a lot, particularly in Irish records for some reason. These dictionaries understand the differences in spelling and accounts for it, which I find fascinating. For instance, let's say I have a cousin named Alexander, and everybody knows him as Alex. Well, the smart matches on MyHeritage will go out and they'll find or attempt to find the correct person, regardless if it's spelled Alexander or if it's spelled Alex or if it's spelled some other way. And one of my favorite examples is the name Alexander. This is the various spellings that the smart matches look for Alexander. In one record, if it was spelled A-L-E-X-A-N-D-E-R, like the very first one in the upper left corner, it will look for all these other spelling variations. And that's really handy when you look not only in English, it's handy in English. It is extremely valuable when you start looking at records that were written in some other language. If your ancestor named Alexander lived in Poland, it is looking for Polish records with any of these spellings. And I'll draw your attention to the very bottom 2 or 3 lines of this screen right here. Yes, it is absolutely looking for those spellings as well. And do not ask me how to pronounce those down at the bottom of the list, because I have no idea. But if you look at the about the 4th line up from the bottom, it's even looking for spelling of Sacha and Sasha, which until I saw this slide, I didn't even realize those were variations of Alexander, but apparently they are. As a result, you have a very high probability of identifying the correct person, regardless of how he or she spelled that word, or how the clerk or the census taker spelled that word. I use Alexander as an example because I am told this is the largest dictionary that MyHeritage has for names. It's what makes good for impressions, but even other names. My own name is Richard, for instance. That can be spelled 3 or 4 different names, and if you're in somebody in Spain, it's probably Ricardo and so on. Okay, so it's going to be a shorter list than what you're seeing on the screen right now, but it's still going to find matches. So if my great-great-grandfather, if he was from Spain, which that's imagination, if he's listed in Spain as Ricardo, and if he's listed in the immigration passenger list in New York City as Richard, it's going to find him with either spelling. Okay, that's the background of what is a smart match. It will go out and it will try to find people throughout all the records that other people have entered. Smart matches, there's another thing called smart records, and we're not going to talk about that today. Smart Matches just simply searches through family trees that have been entered by other users of MyHeritage. And as I say, there are several million of them. And you'll be amazed at how many matches there are. And in fact, I'm really amazed that several of my relatives who are also users of MyHeritage also have put up their family trees, which has a lot of duplicates in my family trees. And trust me, MyHeritage finds them very quickly. Even though some of them are spelled, I would say they're spelled erroneously. That's assuming that my spelling is absolutely correct, which is perhaps not completely true. So that's what a smart match is. It's really a very powerful technology that matches people that you have defined in your family tree with people in other family trees that MyHeritage members all over the world have created and stored on MyHeritage. MyHeritage used to have a saying that they use in some of their advertising, and I loved it. Apparently, it confused some people, and I don't see them using it anymore. But it says, "Search your family tree while you sleep," and that's literally what this does. It will happen. It will work in a background mode, middle of the night, Tuesday afternoon, anytime. And you can see the results next time you log on, and from time to time, you'll probably get some email messages telling you of newly found matches. So how do you do this? How do you get to smart matches? How do you kick this off? Well, there's 2 or 3 answers. Well, the quick answer is it's pretty simple. You don't really do much of anything. It's just you've got them in your family tree and you've got it online on MyHeritage, and these searches will work. But how do you find them after they happen? Well, one way is directly from your family tree. Now, I've done some screenshots. You have to go out and capture what it looks like. But when a smart match is found for somebody in your family tree, there's a green icon will appear right beside that person's card. So let's take a look at one. If you've been using MyHeritage for any amount of time at all, you've obviously seen screens like this before. This is the family tree as shown on MyHeritage. And there's a whole bunch of names here. I'm not going to go through all of them. In fact, I'm not on here. But my sister is, and her husband, and my sister-in-law, and that's my parents, my grandparents, and so on and so forth. Okay, take a look, if you will. There's a number of these that have dots over when they have their name. You've got a person listed. I'm going to pick one right in the middle here, Nina Nelson Dow. She's got 2 dots over on the right. Excuse me. And for right now, we focus at the green one. The green one says that there is a smart match. Somebody else has a record of Nina Nelson Dow in their family tree that's online. They may have more information than what I have. They may have less information. They may have a spelling variation. But whatever it is, if you click on that green dot, it will take you to a match of that. And I'll show you that in a minute. Here's another one. I just zoomed in a little bit. This is the same thing. These are 2 different people. But it's the same idea. You've got that green dot. Click on that, and you'll see the match. Okay, well, I skipped through several screens. We did come up and look at the match. But here is the 2 matches for the lady that was, this, by the way, is my great aunt. You'll see over on the left side of your screen, you'll see across the top, it's got her name, Cornelia M. Merrill. Right below that says in your family tree. That's in my family tree. That's where this record came from. And then below that, we have her name. And below that, we have all the information that I have, most all the information that I have, at least in my database. Over on the right, we see a match from somebody else's family tree. This is in the Forrester website, managed by Joan Carroll Forrester. I have no idea who that is. That's why I picked this as an example. I think it's a good example. This is the record that Joan has in her family tree on MyHeritage. And the first part of it, got her name, is pretty much the same. Parents are the same. And then depending whether you're looking on the right side or the left side, the information displayed might be in a different order. You'll see a little bit of difference. I said that her ex-husband is Harrison Merrill, or Harry Merrill. the record over on the right just says her partner was Merrill. Well, both those statements are correct, no problem. But go down about 3/4 of the way down, and you'll see a red box that says new. And right there's a piece of information in somebody else's family tree that I did not have in mine. So the married name was Merrill. Well, it was kind of inferred in my record, but she has it listed a little bit differently. And if I want, I can click on things here and I can automatically copy that over to my database, or I can save it for later, or I can ignore it and so on. And go through 2 or 3 screens that I'm going to ignore for right now. You could even type it in manually if you wish. But that's how we found a married name for somebody else's records, but a married name of somebody in my database. And again, we see the name on the top was the same. Down below that, we see the difference. Although it's essentially the same, but I listed it as ex-husband, and Joan, the owner of the other database, listed as a partner. Okay, another way. That's one way to get to smart matches. I'm going to warn you right now, there's several ways to get to smart matches. MyHeritage makes sure that you know about it and you see how to get to it most anywhere it is. So another way is by clicking on the gray icon on the left side of the user strip at the very top of your screen. Well, that doesn't mean much until you look at it. So here is it. I'm looking for something and it's not there. Okay, good. I didn't want it to be there. This is another snippet out of my family tree. And you'll see you still got those little green dots in the various names. I'll point you up near the 2 people on the top, Warren Dow Eastman and Sadie Celia Dubé. That's my parents, by the way, and there's a green dot on there. That's the same as what you just saw a moment ago. But now let's take a look at something else. I'm going to show an arrow. See where it is on the very top of the screen? That's all the number of smart matches I have sitting there waiting for me to process. You may notice I'm a little bit behind in this work because it doesn't go above 999. It says I have 999 plus more smart matches waiting for me to go look at them. And I really haven't ignored it quite as much as that might insinuate. Most of them are missing county names. Where I grew up and where most of my ancestors lived for many years, county names were not that important. If you're down in the southern part of the United States, or even somewhat in the western part, county names are the most important thing. Up in the northeastern part of the country, where most of my ancestors lived, and also in Canada, where most of my mother's ancestors lived, which is my ancestors too, of course, county names are not important. So over the years, I entered all sorts of information about people, never put in the county name. But yet MyHeritage says, oh, you've got a smart match. And that's true. I absolutely do. So if I click on that icon right now, I'm going to go show that arrow one more time, I think, where that arrow shows. It will give me a list of smart matches that are waiting for me to process it. And I can see all of them. There's still another way to smart matches by clicking on the gray icon on the left side of the user strip at the very top of your screen. And we'll go again. This is another view. If you're a user of MyHeritage and familiar with it, you've seen this before. And I just gave away my age because that's me over on the right. And then over on the left, that's me. That's the record right there. And you can see that there's a number of things, but one's almost kind of hidden. So I'm going to point that out. You watch right now. Right there. It says I have 2 pending smart matches on me. I think I know how to find out. I believe those were missing county names. And when I have a little spare time, when I have a little spare time, I'm going to go fix that, of course. But most of the time when I'm on MyHeritage, I'm looking for new information. The fact that I didn't put Penobscot County down in the birth record on my own name is not a big issue to me. But it's a great example of how even on you, that's another way of showing you have smart matches to work on. The screen I showed you a minute ago was how many you have through your entire database. This screen is how many pending smart matches you have just on this one person that you're working on. And there's still another way. And this one is a little bit interesting. Right here under discoveries. And if you go click on discoveries, you're going to go through a couple of more screens. I'm not going to show them all to you because it's just repetitive information. But if you go click on discoveries, it's eventually going to lead you through one of the options is smart matches, and you can get to the smart matches screens through there. Originally in this presentation, I took you through, I had it all set up to go through that, and took about another half hour. I finally deleted it. Just take my word for it. That's another way to get to the same thing. So the bottom line is you can find the smart matches from most anywhere you are in your database. And I think that's a ease of use kind of thing. So once you've added new information from your smart match to your tree, MyHeritage will accept that information and will say, hey, we might have some new smart matches because you just fixed one, and perhaps you put some more people into your database, or maybe that opened up more matches to more. Well, MyHeritage has to go back and check again. And MyHeritage may find even more connections on SmartHeritage. It could happen within the next 2 or 3 minutes. It might be the next 3 or 4 days. It might be 3 weeks from now. Or if a new customer of MyHeritage signs on 3 months from now and enters data, and it happens to have a smart match to the record that you already have in your own database, you probably will get an email of that. You can actually, and there's a way you can contact that person and ask them, hey, can you give me information about so-and-so? And it works quite well. I've done that, one of my favorite stories. I won't go too long, but I had that happen to me probably 6 months ago. One day I got an email from MyHeritage said that they'd found a smart match from somebody who had the right last name. And the last name was Dubé, which I said is my mother's maiden name. But the first name was somebody I'd never heard of. And I went and looked on it and found out 2 things. Number one, it was my first cousin twice removed. It took me a while to figure that out. I grew up with her grandfather, which tells you my age again. He and I, when we were 6 and 8 years old, we used to play together quite often. Well, now I grew up, he grew up, and now he's got grandchildren, so do I. And found out that his grandchild, granddaughter in this case, had just become a new MyHeritage customer. And she had entered her family tree as she knew it. And I'll be kind, I'll say she didn't have much information. She'd only been doing genealogy, I think, about 3 days. But she had her name about her and her spouse and her own children. She had the name of her parents, her grandparents, and I think her great-grandparents. Well, those match me. And so MyHeritage sent me the note and said, we've got a smart match. And it was absolutely true. I had 3 or 4 people that were in her database. I think she only had about 15 people in her entire database. But 3 or 4 of them matched mine. They had the same name, same locations, the same relatives, and all that. Perfect. So we had a little conversation by email. And it turned out, like I said, she was brand new. And to be perfectly blunt, the information in her family tree didn't help me a bit. However, I have a rather extensive database. I've been doing this for over 40 years. And I said to her in email, would you like to have your grandfather's entire family tree, which is about 3,000 people? All of them are in French-speaking Canada, except they go back to some of them in France in the early 1500s and some of them early, even earlier than that. And she said, why, yes, I'd love to have that information. So I sent it to her, and she read it in as a GEDCOM file, one thing or another. So her entire, because of one smart match on MyHeritage, her entire genealogy database grew from about 15 people to over 3,000 people, and that happened overnight. So yeah, that was a great success for this, for somebody else. Didn't help me a bit, but I still think it's a great story to show somebody else. If you haven't used smart matches, I'm not going to promise that you'll get success like that, but it's not impossible. Now, let's wait for it. That's one example of how you might get one by email. New customers come on board, or people upload additional people to the family tree. Maybe somebody else on MyHeritage has been doing genealogy for years and years, but they add one more record of somebody, and that generates a smart match to somebody in your database, and all of a sudden you've got smart matches to dozens of people, or information about dozens of new people. That happens quite often. So that's basically how to get to it, and I'll entertain questions here in a couple minutes. I'm sure we did not explain it exactly perfectly, but that will kind of give you an idea how it works. The next thing is, I used to leave this information out, and I found that anybody always said, how much does this cost? So here's how it costs. And in fact, I'm going to say good things and bad things about MyHeritage. The good thing is they've got dozens and dozens of services, and Smart Matches is just one of them. The bad thing I'll say is it's confusing to figure out pricing, because MyHeritage sometimes prices out things individually, where you pay for one thing, you pay by the drink, I guess it's called. Or other times, so you could have 3 or 4 or 5 different items, such as smart matches and database searches and things like that, DNA tests, and they would all be priced differently. And then other times, MyHeritage will bundle things together. They'll take 2 or 3 or 5 different services and bundle them all together. And they even have one called the Ultimate Package. You can see that way over on the right. And that's where they give you almost everything. They don't give you DNA in that because that's a separate process, but they give you all the subscriptions. And so as a result, I can't tell you what MyHeritage costs, the dollar amount. The only answer I have is it all depends. So the ones I'm going to talk about primarily are looking at this chart across basic, premium, and premium plus. Let's see if I can go in. This is the same chart. I just expanded it, make it a little bit easier to read. And this is the one that's called Family Tree. They have a basic, they have a premium, and obviously there's a premium plus. The main differences are just how many people you're allowed to put in your own family tree and store online. And you can see that there. They have one that's free. I always like the word free. I got to admit I'm not using free anymore, but that's the way to start out with it. And it gives you a good chance, like my first cousin twice removed, that's what she started with. And she was allowed up to 250 people. That's the family tree size. The premium service goes to 2,500, and premium plus, which is what I have now, is unlimited. If you've got 10,000 people in your family tree, they'll keep it and store it for you. So that's a little bit things of the things that are included. A chart of all the various options would fill probably another 10 or 20 slides, and we're not going to go there today. Luckily, all this information is online on MyHeritage. If you want to find the pricing for you, you can go on and pick out the various pieces you want, and it will always tell you what the price is. And always, 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 when you go to subscribe to something and maybe pay some money, before you put in your credit card number, MyHeritage is going to come up and give you the total price for what you have just selected. You will know that before you have to pay, and you make up your mind. I'll reemphasize again, the basic is free, and that's where the majority of customers start, and I think it's a great service. It really gets them hooked. Here's what I believe is the final slide in my presentation, and it's the one thing I couldn't put it anywhere else. I couldn't find out where it fit in, and to me, it's one of the most important facts at all about MyHeritage. Let's say you already have one of the site subscriptions, one of those 3 from the slide I just showed you. What happens to it if you drop your subscription? Most of, and I don't know if it's all of, but many of MyHeritage's competitors, if you are no longer a subscription, if you are no longer a subscriber, your information is erased. And that's not true on MyHeritage. So let me repeat that. That is not true on MyHeritage. If you have a site subscription at any given time and it expires, that is, you did not renew it, all of the data in your family tree, all of your photographs, and everything else you uploaded to your family site will be kept intact. I'm assuming that it means forever and ever. I'm not going to define what forever and ever is, but I guarantee it's for a long, long time. But in bold text, it says nothing will be deleted. To take it another way, if the MyHeritage subscriber passes away, he or she obviously is not going to renew, but her information or his information is going to remain there for a long, long time for other people to find. And I'm just enthused about how well that works and how unusual that is throughout the genealogy industry. It's something I just don't see very often when I'm working on other things, when I'm writing articles about other services. So that's it for today. I have to be somewhere about midnight tonight, so I can take questions until then. And if Esther can punch the magic keys and make this go back, and I think I have to get out of that mode and get back into this mode. And Esther, can you see my smiling face?
Yes, we can. Thank you so much for that presentation. And I see so many comments that you've made a difficult or more complex topic.
There's one rule: you cannot ask me anything that's going to embarrass me because I don't know the answer. Okay, beyond that, have at it.
Okay. I just see so many great comments here. Thomas says, you are doing a really good job explaining smart matches in a simple way. Very good MyHeritage Live today. So that's fantastic to hear. And it really was a fantastic presentation. So thank you so much for explaining it in just such a clear way. We do have some questions from the audience. So let's see what we have here. We'll take a few. There are a couple questions actually about the same issue. So I'll read the one from Barbara, and she says, should you reject a smart match if some of the info is incorrect? And this has to do kind of with the same question that Linda asks, which is, how do we know if we are getting misinformation from smart matches?
Stand by. I'm ready to get on a soapbox and start talking for about the next 3 hours. Okay, you have just hit one of my, I don't want to call it one of my favorite topics. It's one of my least favorite topics, but it's one I deal with all the time. Accuracy of genealogy information. And I'm going to give you about 4 answers, and I think you should not take any one of them. I think you should take a combination of them, but you should decide which ones you are comfortable with. Okay, here's the combination. Keep in mind, the matches that appear from MyHeritage is a collection of facts. Now you have several options. If you decide that that record is absolutely correct, 100%, it's perfect, you believe it, there's an icon you can click, and it will take all that information from that record and put it into your database. I will tell you right now, I never, ever use that. And that's why you saw earlier slide, I'm pointing here because I think it was up there somewhere. It said that I had the number of smart matches I have outstanding is 999 plus. It's because I refuse to take somebody else's record. Almost always. I can think of one case. It was a professional genealogist who looked up some information for me. That appeared as a smart match for me, and I believe that one. I took the entire record. That's the only one I can think of right now. I may have done some others, but I doubt it. Another option is you can decide that you believe this piece of information, you believe that birth date is probably correct, and you click on an icon and it'll copy that one piece of information over to your database. And maybe you found out that the maiden name of the lady was correct, so you click on an icon and you copy that one information over. That's up to you. I will say that I rarely do that, but you can pick and choose the pieces of information. Or another choice is you can just say, to heck with it. I don't believe it. I think this is totally wrong. And I've done that to a number. I've got a great-great-grandfather on there that I'm still arguing with somebody else. I think he picked the wrong person. I am convinced he picked the wrong person. And he is absolutely convinced that I picked the wrong person. And we've been arguing that about, I don't know, 6 or 8 years now. And I'm gonna leave it there. And the fourth option is one that I do. I think this is a very interesting piece of information. I think I need to check it out. And I put it into my to-do list as something to work on later. And to be honest with you, that's probably the option I use the most. So back up again. You can ignore it. You can add it in its entirety. You can pick and choose individual pieces of information, or you can add it to your list of things to look on later. Quite often, I will see somebody put in information that may not be correct, but they've added a location I didn't have before. Suddenly it says he lived in Penobscot County, Maine. And I think, next time I go down to the Penobscot County Courthouse, I should look up that land transaction back in the 1800s, see if they've got a record of it. And if I go to the courthouse and I look it up and it agrees with what that other person said, then I'll copy it over to my database, no problem. So that's a long answer to your very short question. Yeah, next.
Okay, I see some more. Oh, there we go. I see some additional comments here. Terry says, amazing presentation. Thank you, MyHeritage. And Robert says, thank you for your excellent presentation. Just some nice comments coming in here. Let's see, Diane asks, do you still have access to your tree when your subscription expires?
Well, yeah, it's very simple. You simply sign up again. Actually, and that's a little bit of a joke, obviously. You can read it. Any free user can come on and see information that is there. And within those constraints, yes, you can see if you entered the record 3 years ago and you have since dropped your own subscription, you can still go back, even though you don't have a subscription, and you can see any information that any free user can see, which I'm going to guess is your information. But once you've dropped your information, there's no way, you don't have a username anymore, so there's no way to keep track of what was yours and what was not yours. But yes, in most cases, you are going to see it. There's a slightly related, if I can jump in here, Esther, and apologize.
Of course.
There's a question I see on here that is one of my warm buttons, and I'm not going to, and I just lost it.
The comments are coming in too quickly.
Yeah, exactly. But basically, the question said, I dislike the fact that I cannot change information on MyHeritage. And I've heard that before. And that is basically caused by somebody who doesn't understand how all the inner workings. Be honest with you, when I first saw all this stuff with smart matching, I kind of thought the same thing. But here's the rule. If it's information that you entered, you can change it any way you want. You can say the person lived to be 300 years old, you can do whatever you like. If it's information that was entered by somebody else, you cannot change it. And there is the third combination. If it came up as a smart match, and you take that information, you click on it, and you copy it over to your database, you can change it. You can change anything in your database, but you cannot change information that is present in somebody else's database. And I think that's exactly the way it should work. That's the way a number of the competitors work also. And there's a number of other competitors who do not work that way. There's one, a very big one that anybody can change anybody's information at any given time. And I refuse to use that site because I just think that's, if you're a professional genealogist or just a gung-ho amateur, you know that's wrong. You never do that. So again, go back to the original question. You can change any information that is in your database. You cannot change information. You deliberately cannot change information that somebody else put in there. Okay, I'll get off my soapbox now. Back to you, Esther.
Okay. I see James wrote, I wish I had seen this before. I added some bad info to my tree. How can I delete this bad info? So, James, we do have a FAQ on MyHeritage, a help center, with lots of posts there about how to delete extra individuals or information in your tree that maybe you added. And as Dick said, you know, to pay attention to the genealogical information that you're adding and to be very careful with exactly which details you're automatically adding to your family tree. Let's see, we just have we just have time to take one more question here before we go to the winner of today's competition. Let's see, Joanne said, always wondered how to handle smart matches And let's see. For anyone who does not know, all of our Facebook Lives are available afterwards as well. So if you'd like to rewatch today's session, you can do so under the videos section on MyHeritage. So just putting that there so you can all take advantage and watch this presentation as well as others again. Stephen asks, if you don't have a subscription anymore, can you still delete stuff?
Are you going to answer that, or am I?
Sure, I don't mind.
You're the employee. You're a little closer to the action. I think I know the answer, but I'm just a little doubt in the back of my mind. So I'm going to sit back and let you go for it.
So if your tree was over 250 people, which is with the basic plan, what you're able to get with a basic plan, then it is possible that you will no longer have access to the tree. It will be there, nothing will be deleted. But if you do want to delete any information from there, feel free to contact the support team, support@myheritage.com, and they will help you take care of that. So definitely something that they can help you with. And just maybe one last genealogical question here, Dick. We have from Martin. He asks, is there a good way to date undated studio photographs?
Yes, and I don't think we've got enough time for me to fully answer that. If it's a fairly new photograph, if you took a picture of the grandchildren out at last summer at the family outing and so on, the answer probably is yes. All modern cameras, take that back, all the more expensive modern cameras have built-in capabilities. They actually have GPS receivers built in them, and they actually record in what's called the metadata. And I'm not going to explain that because that's another half-hour conversation, but it's built in and it's attached to the photograph. And they will give you the exact location where you were and the exact date and time, right down to the second of when the photograph was taken. They'll only give you the location by latitude and longitude. They won't tell you that it was in Bangor, Maine, or Orlando, Florida. They won't do that. Okay, so that's anything. And a very good example is most of today's cell phones that have cameras in them will do that. And they're a good example. And if you want to dig around a little bit online and learn how to do it, it's a fascinating topic. If you go back to, you got a family photograph from the 1890s or 1900s or whatever, no. There is no fast and easy way to find out. You do it through old-fashioned detective work, just like I used to do back in the 1970s, 1980s, when I first started on this, before the World Wide Web has been invented. So the real answer is, it all depends. Was it a new camera or was it an older one? And most of the photographs that we're talking about are probably older ones.
Okay, and I guess we'll have to have a follow-up photos session.
Okay, I have the correct last name. I should be an expert in photography. I'm going to tell you right now, I am not an expert in photography. If you give me an invitation to speak about that, I am going to say no.
Well, then we'll have to choose another topic to get you back.
I'd be delighted to speak on a topic that I know, but that's not one of them.
I see Jennifer wrote here, thank you for all of the information. It's been very helpful. It can truly be mind-boggling. So true, and thank you all for all these lovely comments. We'll now be choosing a winner for MyHeritage Complete Plan. So the Complete Plan, the best plan we have to offer at MyHeritage, a very, very exciting prize. If you don't win today, again, please enter our Mother's Day competition. We put a link to it in the comment section, and that'll give you more opportunities to win, for you and your family to win. So today's winner is Thomas Ostergaard, and Thomas wrote to us and he said, Smart Matches by MyHeritage are impressively effective. I've come in contact with many other members of our family who are also genealogists because of Smart Matches. We have since shared lots of family photos, which I would not have gotten if it wasn't for Smart Matches. Lots of stories in the family have also been told and written down. I would never have come so far with my genealogy in general without MyHeritage and smart matches. My best smart match was my grandmother, who died when my father was only 2 years old. I got in contact with a niece of my grandmother through smart matches, and she had some old photos of my grandmother when she was young, which my father and I had never seen before. Truly amazing. So that is just so touching, Thomas, and we'd love to see those photos that you got of your grandmother that you hadn't seen before. That is really a true treasure, and what Smart Matches is supposed to do, give you pieces of information, photos that you've never seen before of your family members from relatives that you've connected with. So what an incredible find. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. And we'll be in touch with you through private message to claim your prize. So Dick, thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, thank you for the invitation, and it's been a delight. I really appreciate this.
It's always so much fun to have you, and we always learn so much on these sessions. So for everyone out there, thank you for joining us, and we hope to see you at our next Facebook Live. So have a great day, everybody.